Hey guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to get into how multiplication is related to division. Multiplication and division are opposites of each other. If I multiply something by 5, say 7 times 5, and I get 35, but then I divide 35 by 5, I'm going to get 7. They're opposites of each other, which means they're inverses of each other. That means if I do one and then I do the other, I actually cancel out what I just did. The same thing as with adding and subtracting. If I have 10 and I add 2 to it, I have 12. If I subtract 2 from it, I have 10, where I originally started. They're opposites of each other. So here I just have a simple problem. 5 times 6 equals 30. Then if I divided that 30 into 5 groups, I would get 6. You see how I'm keeping the same numbers here? I just moved them where they are in relationship to each other, but I have a 5, a 6, a 30. I have a 5, a 6, a 30. They're kind of staying the same numbers because they're all related to each other. This fact is related to this fact, which we will discuss later as part of our fact families. Quickly, a review for multiplication and a kind of an introduction for the parts of equations. In multiplication, we have 2 factors that multiply to give us a product. Exactly. For division, it's a little bit different. We have 3 different names. These 2 are not called the same like in multiplication. These are both factors of 30. 30 is a multiple of both 5 and 6. But over here, it's a little bit different. Even though 5 and 6 are still factors to 30, and 30 is a multiple of both of these numbers, they have different names. So the number that I'm dividing, this 30, I'm taking 30 M&Ms and I'm dividing them into 5 groups. How many is going to be in each group? That number that I have a whole bunch of, I have the M&Ms, that 30 is called my dividend. That's how much that's being divided. That's how much I have. That's how much something is worth. That's the value. Then the number of groups I'm dividing those M&Ms or whatever product I have into, that's called a divisor. That's how many groups I'm splitting it up evenly into. So I'm splitting 30 M&Ms into 5 equal groups, or as close to equal as I can get to. Then my answer in a division problem has a special name, just like in a multiplication problem. But this is called quotient. Say it, quotient. Exactly. It's a little bit different, but it's fun to say. And that's our answer to the division problem. Now, sometimes in division, you'll find that a quotient is not a simple, pretty one-digit number. It can be a 2-digit number. It can also have a remainder. If this was 31 divided by 5, then it would go into 6 equal groups, but I would have 1 left over all by itself that didn't fit into one of the groups. If we're connecting multiplication to division, I kind of came up with a little problem to illustrate the connection. And that problem is Sarah has 28 buttons. If she has 4 groups total, each with the same number, that means each group has the same number, not 5 and 6 and 12, but all have the same amount in each group. If each has the same number of buttons, then how many are in each group? Now, I can solve this with both multiplication and division. That's why I showed this as a perfect problem to show how they're related, how they're connected. First, we got to start off understanding the problem. What do you know? What are you asked to find? What do you know? I've underlined the things in the problem. Those are the important things that you're going to underline as well in your problems. What do I know? Well, I know that Sarah has 28 buttons. I also know that she has 4 groups, and each of the groups have the same amount of buttons in each group. What am I asked to find? I'm asked to find how many are in each group. So if I have 4 groups, how many buttons are in each of the 4 groups? That's what I'm asked to find. You have to do these steps until they become routine. You automatically think, what do you know? What are you asked to find when you're solving a problem? Until it becomes an automatic thought process, you need to write these down. Okay, we're still connecting our problem to multiplication and division. So, after you ask yourself, what do I know? What am I asked to find? Draw a picture. Always draw a picture if it helps you. I like to draw pictures because it's fun and it helps me put my thoughts down in front of me so I can see them in front of me and not just think them in my head. So here I have 28 buttons total. Okay, 28, 28, and I have 4 groups. What number can go into each of these that when I add it all up or multiply it by 4 gives me 28? So write an equation. 4 times what number, that's why I put a question mark here, equals 28. What number, if I put it in here and I add it up 4 times or I multiply it by 4, is going to give me 28 total? Or I could write it as a division problem. 28 total buttons divided into 4 groups equals how many is going to be in the group. This is asking me the same thing. This number represented by the question mark, whatever it equals, is the same number. So here I'm saying 4 times as many in each group equals 28. Think, what times 4 gives me 28? What times 4 gives me 28? Then down here you think, well, I have 28 into 4 groups. Well, what times 4 gives me 28? Even though this isn't a multiplication problem, you are going to need to use your skills of multiplication facts to help you answer this problem. You cannot divide that right off your head unless you sat here and drew 4 groups and started putting 1 slash in each group until you got to 28. You could do that. That's going to take a lot of time. Are you going to get the right answer? Yes. However, I want you to see division as the opposite of multiplication, which means I want you to not only look at this as, oh, well, I could take 28 and divide it into 4 groups and then I could see. I want you to think in your head, well, 4 times what is going to give me 28? Because 4 times what blank gives me 28. These are the same problems, just written differently. 1 multiplication, 1 division. Do we know the answer? That's right, 7 in each group. Very good. Some things I want you to remember when it comes to us discussing multiplication as it is related to division, excuse me, is that they're opposites of each other. If I do a multiplication to one number and then I turn around and divide it with the same thing, I just canceled it out. I've made it back to the original form. Multiplication is the counting of a number of objects in a number of groups to get a total. So this number of objects in this many groups gives me a total or a product. Division it's the opposite. We're breaking apart something. Instead of saying 5 groups with 6 in each group, multiply it or add them all up, get my product, I'm breaking it apart instead of bringing it together. So it's the breaking down of a total dividend, which is the number you start, how many objects you have, 28 buttons, into a number of groups, 4 groups, to find out how much is in each group. And what I want you to do next, I know this was a little new to you, is watch the next video on fact families, and maybe you'll see a little bit more of a connection and relationship between the two. Thanks.